This is DWBR of the Philippine Broadcasting Service. 104.3 on FM. Music and talk. Nice and easy.
Give our resources to OFWs. It should be the foremost job of GFA to really take care of OFWs since they are in a pitiful situation, said Vibar. The GFA had earlier reported that majority of the convicted felons are jailed in Middle East countries like Saudi Arabia and Kuwait for commission of a capital offense, including murder, and in China for drug cases. Villar also reminded the Foreign Affairs Department to constantly check on the Bahay Kalinga, the shelter for distressed Filipinos abroad, in the light of reported abuses going on there. She related encountering in several visits to Bahay Kalinga runaway OFWs and those maltreated by their employees who cannot go home to the country because they do not have money to pay for their plane ticket. For PBS News, George Ismael, Senate.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, will see to it that the followers of Moro National Liberation Front, or MNLF Chairman Nur Miswari, who surrendered to the authorities in Zamboanga City, will have due process. AFP Public Affairs Unit Head Ramon Zagala said having the MNLF members go through the process will give the residents of Zamboanga City a sense of justice. Zagala at least said 39 Miswari followers had surrendered, including 23 who gave up to City Police Head Senior Superintendent Jose Malayo. He said another 15 surrendered early Thursday, while at least 72 were captured and apprehended. Meanwhile, Zagala reiterated his advice to residents in affected barangays not to return home yet, as clearing operations are still ongoing. Senator Vicente Soto has filed a bill requiring employers to release a 14th-month pay, saying that the 13th-month pay is gobbled up by Christmas expenses. Again, Jojo Ismail reports.
According to Senator Soto, the recent wage increase of 10 pesos is too small compared to the daily expenses of ordinary Filipino workers. We need extra earnings in the middle of the year to help ordinary workers in school and medical expenses for their family, he said. Under the proposed measures, it covers all government and non-government rank-and-file employees, regardless of their employment status, designation, and irrespective of the method by which their wages are paid, provided that they have worked at least 1 month during the calendar year. So the Senate Bill 1645 proposes that the 13th month pay shall be paid not later than June 14th, and the 14th month pay shall be paid not later than December 24th of every year, provided, however, that the frequency of payment of these monetary benefits may be the subject of agreement between employer and employee or any recognized collective bargaining agent of employees. For PBS News, George Ismael, Senate.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, says the followers of Moro National Liberation Front, or MNLF founding chairman Nur Miswari, are still considered very dangerous even if they are on the run in Zamboanga City. Harold Cabunok, commander of the Army's 7th Civil Relations Group, advised residents to report sightings of MNLF remnants to the authorities. Cabunok said the remnants of Miswari's armed followers may be low in ammunition, but they are still very dangerous. He added some of Miswari's followers had changed to civilian attire as they attempt to escape. Last night, Cabunok said at least 3 Miswari followers were killed while trying to breach the security cordon around the city. The Department of Trade and Industry will continue to look into supply and prices of basic necessities in Zamboanga City until the standoff in the area takes its end. Trade and Industry Secretary Gregory Domingo said that the department has been involved in securing ample supply of basic commodities and assuring that there is no abuse on prices on goods. He disclosed that the Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI, took actions regarding the shipment of sardines in Zamboanga and has already responded to the shortage of goods in Basilan, Sulu, and Tawi-Tawi. Domingo also noted that the DTI's obligation in the post-conflict recovery is to make sure that residents in the affected areas have sufficient supply of basic goods. At least 2 civilians were wounded as sporadic exchanges of gunfire continued on the 12th day of the clashes between government troops and followers of Moro National Liberation Front, or MNLF, founding chairman Nur Miswari early today. 2 civilians from an interior part of an area along Luste Street were hit by stray bullets as fresh fighting broke out early this morning. Meanwhile, sounds of early morning gunfire were heard from Barangay Santa Catalina as government troops continued clearing operations in MNLF-controlled areas. Also, a fire was reported in Barangay Rio Hondo, a coastal area in the city. Batanes is placed under storm signal number 3. Under storm signal number 2 are Apayao and Cagayan, including the Kalayaan and Babuyan Islands. Under storm signal number 1 are Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, Mountain Province, Ifugao, Abra, Kalinga, and Isabela. Pagasa said Typhoon Odette may bring rainfall of 10 to 20 millimeters per hour, which is considered heavy to intense within its 700-kilometer diameter. It warned residents in low-lying and mountainous areas under signals number 1 and 2 against possible flash floods and landslides. Also, those living in coastal areas under signal number 2 are to be alert against storm surges. The remains of at least 50 victims of last month's collision of a passenger ship and a cargo vessel in Cebu will be placed in a temporary burial place next week. The Provincial Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council has initially scheduled the mass burial on September 24. Up for temporary burial are the 47 bodies and body parts of 3 other victims, which were initially brought to the Cosmopolitan Funeral Parlor. Earlier this month, the Coast Guard stopped search and retrieval operations in favor of efforts to siphon oil from the sunken MV St. Thomas Aquinas I. At least 116 bodies had been recovered from the ill-fated passenger vessel. Office of Civil Defense Region 9 Director Adriano Fuego said that the 11-day standoff between the Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, and the Moro National Liberation Front, or MNLF fighters, has displaced 118,162 people. Of this figure, 71,265 individuals are now housed at the Joaquin Enriquez Sports Complex, which is more than 60% of the total number of evacuees. The remaining individuals are being housed in 56 other evacuation centers and homes of their relatives in Zamboanga. At least 6 more followers of Moro National Liberation Front, or MNLF, founding chairman Nur Miswari surrendered to the Philippine Army in Zamboanga City. Army 7th Civil Relations Group Commander Colonel Harold Cabunok said the surrender occurred at 4 p.m. yesterday. Cabunok said the Miswari followers were very hungry and without ammunition. In news abroad, at the Vatican, Pope Francis said the Catholic Church must shake off an obsession with teachings on abortion, contraception, and homosexuality and become more merciful or risk the collapse of its entire moral edifice. Pope Francis said the Church had locked itself up in small things, in small-minded rules, and should not be so prone to condemn. He said priests should be more welcoming and not cold, dogmatic bureaucrats. The Pope also said the confessional is not a torture chamber, but the place in which the Lord's mercy motivates us to do better. His comments were welcomed by liberal Catholics, but they are likely to be viewed with concern by the conservatives. In Washington, Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI Director James Comey, says the contract worker who opened fire at the Washington Navy Yard this week appeared to have no particular target as he moved through a building and shot and killed 12 people. Comey, whose agency is leading the investigation into the shooting, said that in surveillance video, the shooter, identified as Aaron Alexis, appears to be moving without particular direction or purpose. Thousands of workers streamed back into the Washington Navy Yard 3 days after Alexis, a former reservist working at the site as a contractor, opened fire with a shotgun as he wandered several floors and hallways. The sprawling walled complex, which covers about 16 blocks of the United States Capitol, had been closed to all but essential personnel and those involved in the investigation into why Alexis mounted the attack. Finally, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani said his government is ready to help facilitate a dialogue between the Syrian government and the opposition. Rouhani said there is a need to join hands to constructively work towards national dialogue, whether in Syria or Bahrain. He called for the creation of an atmosphere where peoples of the region can decide their own fates. In his latest bid to reach out to the international community since becoming president in August, Rouhani said he wanted to pursue a policy of constructive engagement. The Iranian leader also refused to rule out what would be a historic first meeting with United States President Barack Obama, saying anything is possible. Speculation is mounting that the two leaders could engineer an informal encounter when they are both at the United Nations General Assembly in New York next week. And with that, we conclude the 12 o'clock edition of the Network News. This is Bon Vibar reporting.
This is Business Radio.